I'm sorry I deprived you of that opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 5th, 2022 City of North Platte Council meeting here, 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. I am calling the meeting to order. First, we have an invocation by Daniel Ramsey. Is that correct? Okay, from Our Redeemer Lutheran.
Let us pray. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Gracious Lord, our Heavenly Father, yesterday we paused to remember the sacrifices made for freedom throughout the centuries and celebrate the birth of our nation. We do indeed owe a debt of gratitude to those who paid dearly for the liberty we enjoy. We also thank you for blessing our land with the freedoms and liberties that we have. At the same time, we also remember those whose lives were lost in the tragic events that took place at a community parade in Illinois yesterday, and ask for your comfort and peace for those whose families lost loved ones to the senseless violence, not only there, but in other places in our land as well. Guard and protect our peacekeepers throughout the land. Lord, we know that good government and peace and freedom are really gifts from your hand. And as we never want to take for granted the freedoms we have, we ask you to bless our city commission and all those who serve our community. Guide their administration and deliberations by your good and gracious will. As we celebrate the freedoms we have in this land, may we also never take for granted the freedom that we have from sin, death, and the power of the devil through the sacrifice of your Son for our sins. Keep us always mindful of your good and gracious will shown to us through the cross. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the prayer. That was very nice. Roll call, please, Angie.
Nisling?
Here.
Tryon? Here. Bowles?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Here. Harmon?
Here.
Leaker? Woods?
Here. Mr. Reeker let me know he wouldn't be with us tonight as he is traveling. Open Meetings Act. The current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Those of you in the audience, there's kind of a long consent agenda, so I'll have to clear my throat at some point. Prepare yourselves accordingly. Okay, that was a joke. Thank you very much. Okay, number one, approve minutes of the June 21 and June 27, 2022. Number two, place on file treasurer's report for May 2022. Number three, send the application for Szechuan Buffet and Sushi Bar for a Class C liquor license, beer, wine, and distilled spirits on and off sale at 1902 South Jeffers Street to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. Number four, send the application of Starting Gate Liquors for a Class DK liquor license, beer, wine, and distilled spirits off sale only and catering at 1807 West A Street to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. Number five, approve the application by Callaway Market of Callaway for a special designated license on July 23, 2022 from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. at the D&N Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a wedding reception. Number six, authorize the police department to apply for the Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office grant funded overtime reimbursement to participate in the National Speeding Prevention High Visibility Enforcement Mobilization. Number 7, approve the collective bargaining agreement between the City of North Platte and the International Association of Firefighters Local Number 831 for the term of August 1, 2022 through September 30, 2024. Number 8, approve the mayor's reappointment of Emily Worrell to the Planning Commission. Number 9, approve the mayor's reappointment of Lee Davies to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull number 7 from the consent agenda.
Okay?
Mr. Go ahead, Mr. Nisley. Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve items 1 through 6, 8, and 9 from the consent agenda.
Motion Lucas, second Nisley, to approve items 1 through 6 and 8 and 9, leaving out number 7. Calling the question on that motion. Okay. The consent agenda, all except number 7, is passed. Mr. Woods, number 7, please.
First, I'd like to say we have a excellent fire department. I visited it and talked to some of the people, and they're all excellent. And this has nothing to do with the personnel or there. With comparable cities, we have a very high budget for our fire department. The extra they're getting, they're at every negotiation, there's little things added. They all add up. With everything that's coming down the road and the financial pressures on everybody right now, I'm just not for this at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Ms. Tryon. Sorry. Caught my throat
I
again.
know, Mrs. Woods.
I know.
I wonder if the chief would mind just kind of going over some of these things and explaining so the folks at home that are watching knows what's happening and what they're asking for. I'll save the rest of my comments for later.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'd appreciate
No,
it.
glad to. Council, Fire Chief Dennis Thompson. In your paperwork, you'll note, I guess, we'll speak to the wording changes in the contract just to kind of bring everybody up to what that means and what the impact of that is. And most of this is simply wording changes to clarify some things. It's really not changing the terms of the contract so much as just clarifying some things. Section 6, Section 9 regarding funeral leave, what immediate family and non-immediate family is, that is just to bring that together so that there's no, we have a lot of folks, all of us do, currently under the contract speaks to immediate family members, so we've got folks that have aunts and uncles die that aren't given enough time to get to funerals wherever they are. We're simply offering that to them to make it easier on them and taking into account family and the importance of that. The Section 4 childbirth leave, paid leave, again, currently 4 shifts, and we're talking shifts rather than days, so we're talking work shifts. For our folks, it is comparable as we looked around the state, and I will give credit to our bargaining unit for going out and doing a lot of research and making sure that they weren't asking for something that wasn't comparable to those cities that we compare to. This just allows, again, for that opportunity during that first bit of time that this bonding of children and parents occurs, and the schedules they work, 24 on, 24 off. This gives them that opportunity to have that additional time that's very important to them and to the child. Military leave of absence, that was simply cleaning up some things. If you get into looking at USAR and the different, and every website you go to has a little different twist on it. We simply we have members on our department that are National Guard, reserves, and depending upon which website you look at, they have a little different terminology as to leave for each one of them, what's allowed, when in fact, USAR specifically states that we will provide leave for all branches of the service regardless, and that really doesn't change how it's taken or when it's taken. If they're called to active duty, we just wanted to make sure we were complying with all USAR terms, federal law. We're, again, just cleaning up language to make that clear that we don't pick and choose. If you're in the Guard or the Reserves or the Coast Guard, you get different kinds of leave. That's not the case. We just wanted to make sure our employees know we follow federal law. New terms, state statute regarding hiring and promotional decisions. Again, we want to make sure, depending upon where you look, contract or handbook, you can take a little different approach to how we hire, who we can hire, when in fact state statute addresses that how we hire, who we can hire, under what terms. Again, simply to clarify that we follow state statute as we look for new employees and as we promote within our department. Longevity pay, right now we have office personnel get longevity pay, and I can certainly defer to Lane on this. There's some things changing here to where longevity pay will be offered beyond just those personnel.
Basically, the city handbook, we already have longevity pay at public service, the police department, and for city employees covered by the city handbook that aren't under a union. And so this was just to bring that in line with all unions would have the same as the city handbook with the longevity pay of the $10, $20, and $30 depending on their length of service. So thought it was just something, just to get everybody. A lot of these things were to try and get all the unions in the handbook kind of in line, and so some of these things were more so we didn't have agreements that were so varied. It was to get the police union, the public service, the handbook itself more in line. Going back to that section 4, I would let you know, it says up to 15 shifts, but they have to have enough leave vacation. I mean, it's not, this isn't over and above their existing or their existing sick time. It would be using their sick time. So if they don't have that much, they don't get more. It's only using what's existing. So it's not on top of existing sick time. That's not an additional provision. It's just allowing them to use up to that much days off. It's for that with their existing sick time, to clarify that as well.
Thank you. Specialty pay, and you'll note the various, there are a number of ways you can get trainings out there, specialized training available to our employees. Not all take advantage of that extra training. They meet the requirements to be employed by us, but there are areas that some take a particular interest in that is very important to our operations. We believe it is beneficial to the employee as well as the city to offer them some incentive if they're willing to put forth that extra effort, spend quite a bit of time away from home and family to obtain these certifications and to maintain them. Again, we as a department, we offer a number of services that our brother departments and brother and sister departments around the state don't offer. We do provide above and beyond the services that they provide. A number of those services require specialized training. So this, and I can tell you, put pencil to this, Currently, the impact of this specialized training right now is probably in the $1,500 range for all of our employees, a total budget impact, so it's not a great deal. I have the option to limit that to 4 of these specialized trainings, so I'm not gonna have somebody go out and get 15 trainings and expect $1,500 a piece. So we have a cap and I can limit this, but again, people that are willing to go out, receive this training and maintain it is important to us and what we provide to citizens of our community and our surrounding area. Out of assignment classification pay doesn't happen often, but there are times that we have occasion that we'll be short an officer at a station that's in charge of running that station, or perhaps running all 3 stations, and we're not able to get somebody called back in on overtime. We think it is valuable to be able to have somebody at shift level that is qualified, has again gone above and beyond with training and perhaps testing for the next officer position. If they have to step up out of that position they're in and lead a station or entire shift, only right that they should receive some form of compensation for that. And I will tell you, as you can see there, for 4 hours and no more than 12 hours, they're simply asking for 1/2 hour of overtime for that entire time. Not 12 hours, but they're asking for a 1/2 hour of overtime for that entire period. Simply to say, we understand you're acting out of your comfort zone, you're out of your normal skill set, but we appreciate you being willing to do that, and you've put yourself in a position to do that. That is what that amounts to. And I say this doesn't happen often, but again, an opportunity to remind our employees that we do appreciate what they're out there doing and that they're willing to take on that additional responsibility. And then the salaries, I guess, questions in particular, we're going to follow what's been or is going to be recommended for COLAs for the city and getting our folks up to comparability, which we are required to do. And again, we provide services that no one else in the state provides in terms of we're a state hazmat response team. We require all of our employees to be hazmat techs. Not all departments in the state do that. There are only 10 of us, in fact, that do. We provide paramedic services and call volume that far exceeds what some of these other departments provide. And again, we want to make sure that we're saying something to our employees. We value them. We absolutely understand what they go out there and do every day. It's thankless most days, but they're willing, and we want to make sure we're maintaining the highest level of professionalism and qualified staff for this city and the surrounding area. As you know, our service region is expanding all the time. We're covering calls far beyond where we really should be, into these small communities with volunteer departments that cannot staff a volunteer department even. That's the nature of the game today. And it's unfortunate, but it's reality. Our priority is the city of North Platte, but we will do everything we can to provide these services outside our city walls, if you will. These people deserve that, and no fault of their own that these services are kind of falling off because volunteerism isn't there anymore. Those that do it are to be commended, but it's not for everybody. We're providing that and stretching our people thinner and thinner all the time. And I don't think we're going to see a change in that anytime soon. It just seems to be, and from everything we're seeing, more coming to us all the time asking for that additional help. And we have to manage that carefully. We won't leave the city short. but we'll do everything we can to help them with those services as they need them.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I know this is probably gonna be pretty difficult to do, but have you figured how much this is gonna impact the budget coming up with these changes in place?
I can tell you, I can talk to the suppression side. So the bargaining unit that we're talking about here, this doesn't include staff, or office staff, but bargaining unit employees, getting them to comparability this October, plus the 1.5% COLA, from what we're at today, that's just over $21,000 change, just come October 1. Then you move forward to that next 1.5 come June, it's gonna be about the same again, impact. And then we get into June of '23, or October of '23, then it will increase probably about twice that over that period of time. And again, a lot of that is just getting them to, they're that far behind comparable cities in the state of Nebraska. So this is one of those things. It's much like what we experienced and saw with the police department. We have really done our best over a number of years to tighten our belts and keep telling our employees, give us another year, give us another year. It's going to get better. And quite frankly, we believe wholeheartedly we can't continue to ask what they do. We can't continue to ask them to just hang on and hang in there with us and trust us. We owe them a great deal of gratitude for what they do, and if we can, this doesn't fix everything. Money doesn't buy everything, but it certainly is. The reality of it is, it's what we all work for, is to have that money coming in and take care of things. So there's significant budget impact, but again, I will tell you that it's, from my standpoint, perhaps biased, it's well worth what we do and provide for services.
Okay, I don't know if you know this right off the top of your head, but someone asked me how many house fires, I suppose that's residential fires, in North Platte for years.
Well, I can speak to this past year. In the annual report that we just had come out, we made 650 fire responses. Now, a fire response can be anything from a natural gas leak, somebody's cut into a line, that requires fire engine response. It can be a motor vehicle accident. It can be a structure fire. It can be a wildland fire. Structure fires alone, I believe, were probably in the 8 to 10 last year, which that's good. I mean, I'd like to have 0. It speaks well of our Fire Prevention Bureau that they're out there in educating and people to take precautions, so we do lessen that occurrence. But one house fire with minor damage versus a house fire with complete loss, any of it's too much. And I guess, you know, we've watched for years and we've been compared for years to another community in the state that operates volunteer fire service. And again, power to them, they don't provide the level of service we provide, and don't have the saves that we have on property value in the end. And so we are proud of our what we do and the services we provide, and I can assure you what we save in property loss being prepared far outweighs the other side of that, if you will.
So, I don't know if you do this, your department does this, or if it's actually the volunteer firemen, their group, if they try and recruit more volunteer firemen, or does your office do that also? And then a follow-up question is, I've heard that the employers here in town aren't too accommodating for their employees to leave. I mean, are you running into that?
Yes. So it's a joint effort. The volunteer fire department here operates under my auspices. We work together on everything we do. They answer to me. This has been going on for over 30 years. I was a volunteer years and years and years ago, and at that time we were running into recruiting volunteers. That was a big problem then. Nothing in comparison as to what it is today. And I will tell you, and it's not just here, employees around the state are finding it difficult to let their volunteers, their staff go to volunteer. And a great portion of that is because they don't know if they're going to see them again in an hour, or it might be another day before they come back, because they don't know the nature of the call. And economics is a big driving factor, obviously. Again, too bad it's all about money, but it is. So there's a great risk to that employer letting their employee go. There are those that are able. We have some locally that are very good to their employees that are members of our department. I can tell you, our roster right now for the volunteer department here in North Platte, we're at 15. That's the lowest it's been in, I can't even tell you when. I never thought I'd see that, but that's where we're at. And it's not simply because of employers. It's simply, it's so much more than that. We're busier. People are busier with families, and family activities take priority, and I applaud them for that. But there are a number of other factors that play into that, and a lot of it's just the amount of time committed for different types of training. And it gets more and more, even for our volunteers, are required to be licensed and certified in certain things, and those trainings take many, many hours, and it's difficult when you're trying to raise a family, when you're trying to work a full-time job and then give back to your communities. And again, I applaud our volunteer departments. We have a tremendous relationship with our area volunteer departments. They're a great help to us when we call on them, and that's why we have these agreements with them for that mutual aid when we need it. So my hat's off to each and every one of them, but we're all in this together and do our best to complement one another where we can.
So do you network at all with the Kearney, the city of Kearney, because they have apparently a very good volunteer fire department, because they only have like 11 or 12 paid firemen there. So what are they doing that we maybe could be doing?
They're not providing near the service we are. They are simply a fire department. They do not provide ambulance service that we do. They don't provide hazmat services. They strictly respond to fires, and it's worked for them. I'm not saying anything. It's worked for them historically, and we have seen historically, if you started out as a volunteer department, chances are you'll probably remain that way well into the future. They have been able to do that. I can tell you for sure they are struggling as well now. They used to have a waiting list to get on their department in the hundreds of people. Not so today. They're well below that number, and I've got a firefighter. In fact, he's an officer that lives in Kearney and is very familiar with that organization and what they do and how they operate. And I can speak that from my understanding and visiting, we've had this discussion many times. It's not all it seems to be at face value. There's so many other things that we don't know, and there's been a push to go to a professional career department, if you will, and that's been fought adamantly by local business, and that's okay. That's Kearney. I just know the services we provide, and there's nobody can compare to what we do right here in North Platte.
Why is it that North Platte has such a specialized group of people? I mean, is it required, is it needed if the other towns?
It's a lot of it's we've over the years, well before I was in my position, felt that to serve our community as best we can, we wanted to go out and take advantage of these additional programs. The hazmat technician is a good example. With Bailey Yards sitting in our city here, and the amount of chemical traffic that goes through there in a day's time, it only made good sense that we would provide our staff the very highest level of training to be able to respond in case of an accident out there. Again, my hat's off to Union Pacific Railroad for the job they do with their safety program. We haven't had but a few incidents that required us to be there on scene with them. They do an amazing job of moving cargo and chemicals and things, but it was a value added thing for our department. Our paramedic services, we could still be doing basic life support. The city this size and the area we serve, it made sense when the paramedic program started that we would provide the highest level of emergency medical care in the field as we could to serve our citizens and give them that extra chance, if you will, for treatment that prior could have only been offered in an emergency room setting. We're now, under doctor's directions, able to provide that service in the field to give us more time for a successful outcome for those folks. That speaks well of a partnership between us and the hospital, and seeing the need for these services and what it says to those that are looking at North Platte to live here and raise families here and move their businesses here. We want to have the very best that we can to offer all those that make this their home.
Okay, I think one more last question, I'm gonna be quiet. Longevity pay, $10 per month. So is that every month they get an extra $10 on their paycheck?
That is correct.
And then when the COLA kicks in, that's figured on top of that too?
It's just, yeah, it's simply an additional $10. It's not going to be multiplied.
1.5 isn't gonna be times that
It's,
10.
no,
It's
it'll
the
just be
basic
that $10.
salary that they're getting, and they'll
Yeah,
just continue
or
to get
what,
$10 on
10 or 20 or 30, depending upon years of service.
Okay. Well,
Chief Thompson, once again, you run an excellent department, and I know it has evolved this way over the years. And it's not your problem about the comparability pay system that we have set up in this state. And, you know, that's what makes this so expensive, one of the things, which is why I fight this. And things like the longevity pay and the specialty pay, I feel that y'all are compensated very well by the citizens of this town. And I'm just trying to keep things under control as best we can. You know, and, you know, I have problems with longevity pay. I was raised, you go to a job, you give it your best, you show you're capable, that you're trainable, and that you want to do a good job, and you'll move ahead. And that's the thing with the $100 to go get a special, you know, training certificate. In my world, you do that to prove, you know, I think an employee has to prove that they want the job too, and it seems to be shifting the other way to where we're supposed to just thank them for working. It's a two-way street, you know. It works both ways, and it seems to be getting out of balance, and this all ripples through the whole city government. And you know, it's getting to where government jobs are you know, are outpacing paying, the average. And so not everybody gets COLAs and all that. And, that is my reasoning. Like I said, I have no complaints with the department.
And I respect
You all do a
your
fine
opinion, I
job.
do. I appreciate
It's just a
that.
matter of opinion of can we afford to provide this much service anymore? Can we maybe try to get more volunteers? And, I know there's private hazmat companies here in town.
And they only do cleanup. They do not respond and
They
stop
do not
leaks and
respond to
things.
the accident itself.
Exactly. Yeah, they're there to clean up after the mess.
Okay.
I respect everything you've said,
Yeah.
Councilman Woods, I really do, and I will tell you, it is my problem.
Well, yes, you have
That's
to.
what I'm here for, is to try and find some balance. I know everybody in the city's needing something, and I don't for a moment downplay any department in this city, and what they provide, because I don't know of anything that anybody in the community is willing to do without, that they have right now. It's a tough balancing act, but I respect that and appreciate it, and I do everything I can to, and I will tell you, our employees are bought in and want to do the best they can for us. We're just trying to say, hey, a small thank you for that additional work. So, but all things taken respectfully, thank you.
Before you go, Dennis. Darn allergies. Darn. Couple of questions for you and Lane regarding the comparability process. Lane, would you refresh everyone's memory with how the state comparability process works real quick? In general, without, we don't need a 2-hour dissertation here.
By state law, we have to look at cities our size, and we have to have at least 5 and up to 9 that you compare to that's within your size range, and they can be within a certain percentage larger and smaller. And you have to have your pay within, you have to look at the average pay between all those, and you can pay at 98% of that or up to 102% to be within comparability. And so we have to, by state law, have to meet those thresholds, and every so often you have to do studies with your similar cities for that. And ours happens to be Hastings, Fremont, Columbus, Norfolk, Scottsbluff, Kearney, to basically fall in that array. For the fire department, we also looked at, since Kearney does only have, pretty much just a volunteer, we looked at, I think it was Papillion, or is there any other one? Beatrice, maybe? We have Beatrice in there also, so that's what we looked for, that array. And we went back to the department themselves and the city both went to those cities and made sure we were looking at their current rates of pay as of the time we're doing these negotiations to try and get there, so.
Okay. And you did a comparability study across largely all the city positions earlier this year, correct? All right, okay. And you just did it on your own, right?
We did, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we the city
We
did
could
it.
have paid, there's 2 attorneys in the state that do that, and we could have paid $30,000 to $40,000 for that, but we took the time, city staff, to do that internally instead of, and we validated that with what the police department did hire someone to do it just for the police department themselves, and we came back very close, and so that validated our study.
Our process, okay. And then when you compared to regional the fire departments in the list of communities, how did we compare largely?
Our firefighters were quite below the average. We had a couple positions and the captain positions that were closer to the average, but for the most part, we were below.
Okay.
And
Like,
so this is to get us to comparability.
at just ballparking as a percentage, how far below were we?
10 to 12%.
10 to 12%. Okay.
Let me,
Hold on just a second. Go ahead, Mr. Carmen.
excuse me for interrupting, but you said of the array that we are in, that our firefighters they're not in the upper tier of those pay ranges, the wages, right?
Correct.
That's what I thought you said. Thank you.
Mr. Bowles?
Just to wrap this up in a bow a little bit, in my opinion, Chief kind of hit the nail on the head when he brought up the police department. We got caught with our pants down around our knees a little bit with the police department. We're asking for a 3% COLA, cost of living adjustment. Inflation's about 8% right now. So I think we're very fortunate that they're only asking for a 3% over the next year to bring us.
That's on top of getting to comparability.
Comparability.
Sure.
Exactly.
Comparability plus, but
Yeah.
yes.
I understand that, yeah.
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 To that point, I've had Norfolk contact me last week to see what we're kind of looking at. They're talking about 7% up there. I didn't bring it with me. Some of the other cities are anywhere in that 3 to 5% range is what they're talking about. So, I mean, who knows how everybody's gonna settle, because Norfolk's having a very hard time. They told me filling positions, and so that's why they're looking at the 7. That scared me a little bit. So, I mean, you know, I think a lot of cities are trying to be around that 3 to 4% range, but
Sure.
I don't know how it's all gonna play out, because they're all in the same budget process we are right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
So we're bringing them up to standard and then looking forward to give them a little bit of cost of living adjustment.
unfortunately, and I agree with Councilman Woods, with the way the state has this, you know, if all the other cities in our array would go at 7%, we're at 3, then all of a sudden, 2 years from now, when we go back at it, we're back behind again, instead of we're trying to stay with it so we don't have these big increases in the future where we can be at comparability like we're supposed to be.
Yep, yep.
But it's tough when everybody's doing different things as far as COLAs and wage increases and stuff, so.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And, you know, they asked the question, can we afford it? And I'll flip it around, can we not afford to do this? It's really easy sitting in these council chambers when everyone's comfortable, but I know as an insurance agent, I see the reaction on some of my insureds when I have a house fire and the fire department was able to save the majority of that house. You see it with accidents when the paramedics come out there and able to save a life. Those are things you can't put a dollar value on, and I think that our department does an outstanding job with that. So I'm very thankful and comforted to live in North Platte and have those services. I don't know if you could put a price tag on a life, you know, so that's really all I have.
I believe we could draw back a little bit without endangering things.
Sure.
Ms. Tran, did you have something?
Well, I was just gonna comment, you know, we compare the fire department, police department, but then we don't compare, do we, the other services that the city provides?
We did the whole city.
Yeah.
Why is our budget so high? I mean, the bottom line
When you look at our budget compared to other cities our size, we're not really as far as total dollar amount or total amount of people, so I guess we could do it in more in-depth as far as pulling Norfolk's budget, Columbus budget, Kearney's. I mean, it's so hard. Every single city provides different services. You know, some have electric, some don't. Some have gas service, some don't. Some have fire, some don't. I mean, it's really hard just to compare apples to apples straight across the board. But I would argue that, you know, with the services we provide and the size of our city staff, that we're not out of line with our peer cities as far as that goes. Because we do try and watch that, but.
I know I looked at 4 different budgets this weekend, and I know what you're talking about. We need to get on the same page for everything, for all the
It's been
towns.
difficult when you're comparing jobs, because they have different names for people doing the same services, and
Exactly.
trying to compare who's doing what and what job title meets what job title. It's very difficult.
And some things are privatized where others aren't, and, yeah, I know. It's just the fire department's budget.
Mr. Carmen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say to Dennis that you are not unappreciated. Certainly not with this group,
I know that.
and certainly not with me personally. I've always believed that public safety was at the top of our responsibilities as government, and that everything else, even though there may be a lot of important things, they still fall lesser in terms of importance than public safety. That's just my personal opinion. And I think that most of the public agrees with that. I hear lots of good comments about our police and fire. And I hope that stay in the top tier among the array for wages and benefits for our firefighters and our police officers. That's where we belong. We've got the best, and we should be treating them like that. So I'm personally proud of the job you guys do, and you shouldn't have to come in here and grovel. And you don't grovel. You very painstakingly and carefully explain the reasons why your budget numbers are what they are. And I appreciate that. You're very meticulous about that and keeping us up to speed on what's happening with the fire service. Now, I have one other question for you that may be a little bit off topic, but I see this ad on TV. There's this gal that's belly up on her bathroom floor, and she says, "I've fallen and I can't get up." The next thing I see is a hook and ladder truck rolling out of the fire barn. Now tell me, do you respond hook and ladder to someone who falls on the floor?
No. Appropriate equipment, appropriate personnel. I appreciate the entire council and your opinions, and with all due respect, that's why I'm here. You have charged me with ensuring we're doing the best we can with what we have, and I take that very seriously. And there are difficult decisions, and my hat's off to interim administrator. He has worked hard on this. Look at it, this hasn't been fun nor easy. It's bargaining, and there was a lot of bargaining occurred, but he saw the need to get us where we need to be so we don't fall further behind, and I guarantee you, he's not just throwing this out without looking at it for you. He's done an amazing job, so we're grateful for his input and for our bargaining committee. Everybody did an amazing job of coming together.
Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, just a quick question for Lane. Is there anything in what's been proposed that is outlined versus the rest of the city? And I'm kind of looking at just more of the little things like the funeral definition and the childbirth and those. Is that fairly consistent with what you
Vehicle
see?
definition is very similar to what we have in the handbook that we updated early in the year. There's still some discretion there for chief on that. The childbirth one, it's hard because of the shift work that the firefighters do, but all of it falls within, having to use their existing sick leave that's available, or PTO on the department. It's not over and above what they already have. So, but that one's a little bit harder to put apples to apples on that, just because of that. But we still limit it to their whatever they've earned as far as sick leave. It's not over and above. So,
Do you feel it's generally comparable to the police department? In other words, if I was a police officer, would I be upset about this? If I was a firefighter, would I be upset about the policeman's benefits on this? Or do you feel they have a similar fair offering?
I think most of it's similar. I mean, it's different because of the different contracts.
Right.
But we're trying, my goal entering in, and we're still negotiating with 2 other unions, but my goal is to try and get as much of the contractual language to mirror or be similar to our handbook language, so we don't have such discrepancies in trying to figure out which one to use or which one is the standard to go by. I'm trying to get our language more in line in all the contracts as with the handbook, so it's kind of not even a issue to have to talk about. It's just similar language, but that one's a little bit, I can't answer specifically on that as far as how much it's different from others, just because it's hard with their way their shifts work.
No, I'll just add in response to some of the other comments, which I think's been great discussion. I tend to be in favor of a more robust fire department. The ambulance service in particular is something that's very, very difficult in other communities. So I'm very appreciative of what everybody does. I don't think this is a great time to be stingy with COLA. I mean, I think there's 50-some thousand open jobs in Nebraska today. My business and everybody's business I know in our area spends all their time. I mean, I think we're talking about every morning, how can we attract new people and fill jobs? We have open jobs today, and most businesses in town do. And I think we got behind the 8 ball like like Pete said, on compensation, which was really, in my opinion, a result of stagnant growth in the community, us funding some things that were eating up too many dollars, and then our health insurance costs just getting out of control. And so I'm in favor of doing this, working, hopefully keeping everybody happy and retained, and then coming back and continuing to focus on getting our health insurance costs down and looking for cooperation with everybody from that. So I like the proposal on the table.
If I could add, Ty, to your comment as far as the ambulance service, the ambulance service, certain calls do generate, some revenue back to the city, and I believe that's gonna probably be close to $1 million of that's gonna generate for us this year. And so, I mean, there is some things that we do recoup some of those costs, that, we do have some escalated costs, but I believe we were budgeting about 800,000 for that, and we're looking probably north of $1 million that's gonna generate this year. So, I mean, there's some things that are gonna offset some of these expenses, but I mean, and Dennis and I've had some hard discussions, and we're gonna have some more as far as some things that we're gonna have to cut in budgets to make these work, so.
Yeah, I know it's very common in other communities, both here and in surrounding states, to have a lot of problems and inconsistency with ambulance service contracts. We're one of the few that doesn't seem to be fighting that battle on a yearly basis.
We would need a motion to proceed.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between City of North Platte and International Association of Firefighters Local number 831 for the term of October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2024.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Carmen. Any further discussion? Calling the question on number 7 on the consent agenda. Number 7 is approved. Okay, we're on to number 10. Discuss information regarding the RFP for the City of North Platte City Attorney and take appropriate action.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Lucas?
I'd like to move that we move into executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiations regarding this matter.
Second.
Motion to executive session by Lucas, second by Garrick. Calling the question on executive session, please. We are moving to executive session. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, probably not. You all set? Beatrice? Okay. Then we didn't miss any of the important proceedings we have going on here. Okay, sounds good. Okay, we're back to number 10. Thank you, everybody, for staying. Looks like we only lost a couple people out of the crowd during that process, so, okay.
I move to authorize the mayor to enter into discussions for city attorney services.
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Mr. Carmen, Mr. Lucas. I think he said it first, so. You got that one. Okay. Any discussion on item number 10? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 10 as motioned. Item number 10 is passed. Item number 11, approve the request for a one-time event to discharge fireworks for the Platte River Cruise Night on July 9th, 2022 at dusk at the Anytime Fitness parking lot at 5th and Chestnut Streets.
I move to approve the request for a one-time event to discharge fireworks on July 9th at dusk for Platte River Cruise Night at the parking lot of Anytime Fitness at 5th and Chestnut Streets.
Second.
Motion Lucas, second Vols. Any discussion on item number 11?
Just real quick, I'd just like to ask Mr. McConnell. You never get to come up here, so I just wanted to ask you. You got any problems with it? No. All right. That's all I need. Thank you.
I've been instructed that it's going to be a certified pyrotechnic that's going to be doing the fireworks, and they're going to be blocking off the area. So, nope, I'm all good with it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hold on, before you leave, just a second.
Apparently, that's going to be starting around 10 for 15, 20 minutes. About 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Not a real long show.
Okay. Mr. Woods, you were waving your hand around there. Do you
Oh,
have a
no, I
question?
was reading
Oh, okay.
with my finger.
Okay, okay. Just didn't want to miss you if you wanted to say something, so.
That's right.
Mr. Lucas.
I would just comment that I attended the show last year, and it was a great public event. This event is growing at a very fast pace right under our town's eyes. It's becoming a very, very large festival.
Mr. McConnell, I just have a small request. Assuming the council approves this, you want to make sure that the police are notified that this is an approved event, if you would, please. Thank you. Okay. There was some disconcertion last year, so, okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Any other discussion on item number 11? Calling the question on item number 11, please. Mr. Carmen?
Jim? I'm sorry?
Time to vote. That's right. Item number 11 is passed. Item number 12, approve the one-year renewal of the interlocal agreement between Lincoln County and the City of North Platte to provide fuel services to the Lincoln County Roads Department and authorize the mayor to sign all documents for the city.
I move to approve the interlocal fuel agreement between Lincoln County and the city of North Platte.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Nisley. Any discussion on the hot topic of fuel?
Just have a
Mr.
quick
Lucas?
question.
Somehow I knew you would ask.
Yeah, it seems like my kind of topic, right? Yeah. My question is that with the huge fuel price differences, can we effectively recoup payment transition systems with this? In other words, how you square up with each other? In other words, is that 1 cent enough with the dollars being larger? Or is anybody going backwards in this from where we were at lower fuel prices?
It's 1 cent per gallon, so I mean, the number of gallons doesn't really change, and so the amount of times we have to bid the fuel doesn't really change. I mean, it's, you could argue how, if it's recouping our cost, but I mean, we have to bid the fuel anyway, so we bid it at the same time, so it's just basically to keep the interlocal agreement going. I mean, the cost of fuel doesn't really increase the cost of us having to bid the fuel.
Right, and the way we square that up financially doesn't cost more at more dollars? Do they just write a check or something simple?
Each month, we just go through what the fuel we bought for them, and then they reimburse us, for that fuel,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion on item number 12? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 12. Item number 12 is passed. Item number 13. Get your reading voice on over there, Lane. Third reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4093 and recommendation by the North Platte Planning Commission to rezone certain land from an A1 transitional agricultural district to an R2 dwelling district on property located on the corner of North Adams Avenue and West 17th Street.
Move to adopt ordinance number 4093 to rezone certain land from A1 transitional agricultural district to an R2 dwelling district on final reading.
We got to read the ordinance really quick
Oh,
before we
sorry.
do anything else, though. That's all right. We'll just hold that. Nobody second. Go ahead, Lane.
All right, ordinance number 4093. An ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, rezoning certain lands described as a tract of land in the southeast quarter of section 29, township 14 north, range 30 west of the 6 p.m., Lincoln County, Nebraska, from an A1 transitional agricultural district to an R2 dwelling district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion Nisley, second Garrick. Any discussion on item number 13? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 13. Item number 13 is passed. Item number 14, approve the claims.
We pay the claim.
Second.
Motion Carmen, second Garrick. Any discussion on the claims? Calling the question on approving the claims, please. He prematurely put away his voting device there, so hold on a second. There we go, okay. Claims are approved. Public agenda request. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. At this point, we do have the public agenda request, so if anyone would like to request an agenda item, they're welcome to come up front and tell us who you are. It's not looking very promising at this point. Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm assuming we have no public agenda request items for tonight.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Calling the question on adjournment, please vote. Motion Garrick, second Vols. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a marvelous evening and try to stay cool.